we do at the Primary Health Network is really all focused around the patient getting the right care at the right time at the right place. And a large percentage, around 50% of ambulance 000 calls are actually patients who could be better treated outside of the ED department. So it's not about that paramedics just taking them straight there, and potentially these plans can help with that.
I guess the purpose is really, one, it enables patients to put down what they would really like their care to be about, but the other part of it is to enable paramedics to be able to respond to that, what the needs are. You know, when we arrive at most of these addresses or to patients, we know very little about them, we're not very well informed. So the plans themselves at least provide some information about their background, what their wishes might be, or what the advice from the treating doctor might be, and that enables the paramedics to then provide that care with that advice.
We met with GPs to first of all ask them why they didn't use the plans as often. And from that it came about that the plans were paper copies. They were quite time consuming and GPs didn't like them. So we had them changed into a digital format, which then was put into the GP practices for best practice and medical director, and for the Aboriginal Medical Services Communicare. So from that we got ambulance, the PHN, we had some sessions with GPs, we met with Aboriginal communities, and we went and did a little bit of work group trying to work out how could we best work with the community better, and that was where the actual Aboriginal information sheet came from. We used artwork from a New South Wales ambulance paramedic, Kelly, and who works up in the Moree region, and she allowed us to put the artwork across our paperwork.
It was my honour really actually to give the artwork up, because Mum was a painter and her father was a painter, and it's always good from an Indigenous background or an Aboriginal background to touch base with your own at a grassroots level. Basically, and if they can relate to some sort of artwork in particular and know that it's directed at them, it just eases everybody into the care plan a lot easier.
The plans themselves need to be written up by the doctor in discussion with the patient, and so there should be no surprises. You know, this is what's going to be advised to the paramedics. The plans are then processed through to New South Wales Ambulance. Then they get loaded up onto our computer system where the calls come in through the 000 control centre, and so that alerts the paramedics to say there's a plan in place at the address they're being responded to. A copy of the signed plan will go back to the patient, or if they wish it to go to a family member or a carer, and a copy should go back to the doctor as well.
It's important to break down straight away the boundaries, particularly with Aboriginal people, because they don't like to, one, talk about their illnesses in front of their own mob. They don't like to acknowledge it themselves, whether it's fear-related or lack of follow-up, basically, from their behalf. So a lot of the times the family aren't even aware that, you know, that these members of their own family are suffering with a long-term illness.
And it really came from the really good discussions that we have and the meetings that we had, that obviously Aboriginal people had said to us that they wanted to use stories. And then we started having these big conversations around, well, how do we convey the stories, the good and the bad and the ugly? So on the sheets that we have provided for Aboriginal communities with the elders, we have two stories, and in the story we talk around, if you call an ambulance and you have got a chronic disease and it's in the plan and we don't have to take you to hospital, then actually we'll follow the plan and we'll leave you home. But then there was this also fear at the same time that what happens if you fall over and you break your hip and you've got a plan that says don't take to hospital. So we had to put in another story saying that actually should you call an ambulance and it's not in your plan, that we will take you to hospital still. So there's not that fear.
They'll explain things for you and you will get a better diagnosis of that illness of that person there and then.
And I think it just gives some reassurance to the patients themselves that, you know, that there's a plan in place, that there's advice there for the paramedics, that they're not necessarily going to end up in an emergency department. If we can facilitate the care at the home or wherever we are with them, that it's always the optimum if that's what the patient is really after.
The plan, it's from someone like me who've sent them, or someone in the family has rang them and used this plan because they feel more comfortable at home talking about the illness.
Anything that's going to improve quality of life for an Indigenous Australian person, you know, I'm all for it.
I feel very proud of this service because it's going to go into homes where even your own local doctor never goes, and you will meet the family and you see the carers and how caring the carers are. You know, it's so important to that family to make it better and then to help them.
With the care plan with Mum in particular, it's worked wonders, because back in 2011, I think it was, Mum had a stroke, or it might have been 2012, Mum had a stroke. 6 weeks later she had a out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, which obviously we revived her. Since then she's had a second one. From the stroke, Mum has a lot of seizures now as well too. So the care plan has worked in well, because there's a lot of times, particularly when she has a seizure at home, she doesn't need to go to hospital. She just needs a little bit of TLC, a little bit of oxygen, someone at home to watch her. And if we've got a care plan in place, it just makes everything easier. And that just makes life easier so we can all go on as one, hey?
Yep.
Yeah.